Electrifying elastic electrodes, it is my honor to bring to you this video about a pretty awesome weapon. It's one that we have not talked about yet on the channel, and yes, we are talking about a legendary torgue shoddy. Yes. We are talking about the linebacker. Not your favorite linebacker, just the linebacker. You know what I'm saying? I am a big football guy, so having a weapon in Borderlands 4 named after a position inside of my favorite sport is pretty darn awesome. Red text being put me in. Raise your hand if you played Pee Wee football, Pop Warner, junior high, JV, varsity football, and if you're a real stud, maybe you played college ball. We've all said this phrase, put me in, coach, put me in. Well, guess what? The linebacker got the start this week in the video, and it showed out pretty darn well. Its legendary perk, full coverage, is pretty darn strong, as bouncing projectiles increases damage by 25% and then the damage radius by 35% per bounce, and these guys are gonna bounce 5 times. So if you were ever someone who grew up by a pond, a lake, a big body of water, and you were good at skipping rocks, hey man, use that same technique with this weapon and it will reward you greatly, as instead of shooting this weapon directly at your target, if you just want to kind of bounce it across the floor, it will do you justice. I will say it does have a pretty glaring weakness against any enemies that are flying about doing their thing, but for most enemies, any enemies that have legs or no wings, this thing is going to go to work and go to town. It is dropped from the Sky Spinner Scratch. Yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful. Over in the Terminus range, if you would like to farm it, and as far as I'm aware, this is a weapon that doesn't have necessarily too crazy of part RNG, kind of similar to like the Hellwalker or the Hot Slugger in that example, as you shouldn't have to be spending too much time farming for this bad boy, as when you do get one to drop, you essentially have one that's going to be good to go. You're not looking for a perfect roll here. It's not like you're farming for 7 cents with a daedalus shotgun alternative ammo type. Now you can see in the background gameplay, bro, we're just using the stock one, and it's putting in the work, bro. It really is. Like, respectfully, I like it. This was a weapon that I've definitely had some requests to make a video on to use, try out, especially whenever I'd like to do our tier list videos, or not necessarily tier list videos, but more so when we just do our listing videos, whenever I like to make my top 10 weapons. A lot of people be like, bro, are you not mentioning the linebacker? Truth be told, brother, man, I hadn't really used it that much up until this point. That is why slowly but surely we're going to showcase every legendary weapon in the game and make each list better than before. So if you are someone who is a fan of torgue weapons and explosions, this is a weapon for you. I believe it's in the same family as the Uncanny Parallel with how it performs with the explosions and just eradicates any mobs in its path. Just after my first little play session with this bad boy, this weapon definitely has that plug and play feel. You know, when you have weapons in this game that they're really good, but you need a very specific setup to unlock their latent potential for them to really shine. The linebacker is not one of those. The linebacker definitely feels more of a weapon that it's going to be strong and do its thing no matter what setup you're on. And then obviously if you have some firmware or a good build that boosts splash damage, or it's just overall a good build, you'll be able to just slot the linebacker in there and it'll go to work. It'll do its thing and you'll like what you see. With that, my sexy Supermans, it's time we head over to the live action portion of the gameplay. Have a little bit of fun, shall we? All right, you sexy standouts, here it is, our linebacker. We're going to go out here and play some good old defense, because what we have here is a very fun mobbing weapon, as it's just an insane amount of explosions. They're going to bounce 5 times, and they're going to gain damage off of each bounce, right? 25% damage per bounce, and 35% damage radius. Of course, it is a torque weapon, so there is that risk of the booms coming at you, back at you. But because those first sets are as, like, you know, strong as when they actually bounce a few times, it's actually not nearly as like risky as some other weapons would be. And as far as I'm aware, the bounces from this bad boy, they don't count as indirect projectiles. I was playing around with it a little bit earlier and I didn't really notice it. Oh, you can block it a little bit, but dude, the fact that the bounce, they just keep going and they just keep bouncing, getting more damage, they get stronger per bounce, is just pretty nice. It's pretty easy weapon to use, honestly. Overall, just as this weapon being a relatively fun, simple weapon to use, pick up, plug it in, whatever setup you're maybe using, especially if it's like splash based, and you're just going to be cooking. Very simple weapon to get the hang of, as it's just point, shoot, don't get too close to it, or a barrel, and that or them. Man, actual wombo combo of explosions getting dealt back to me. That's kind of disrespectful, to be fair though. But to be fair though, whenever I use a weapon like this, I'm kind of asking for that. Now, I will be honest, this is definitely not your strongest bossing weapon. whatsoever. It's definitely more of a mobbing weapon. It's really good against vile enemies because all the explosions are going to get rid of their crystals. But in terms of a bossing weapon, not its strong suit, okay? Then again, you don't really use a linebacker to score touchdowns now, do you? Huh? Yeah. Of course, remember, if you do want to farm for this bad boy, you do got to go hit up the Sky Spanner's Cratch. Such a weird name. Over in the cuspid climb of the Terminus Range. Now, you guys already know for our next order of business, we got to go head over to one of the vaults. The vaults have probably some of the more consistent mob density in the game, which is chill. That's why we always come over here. Oh yeah. Where this thing shines is against mass enemies because it's just so many explosions, especially against enemies that aren't flying. It's very, very good against enemies that aren't flying. This is a badass, by the way, just peppering them. As you can see, yeah, whenever we have our action skill up, our good old Peacebreaker cannons, we don't reload because just a 5 out of 5 in our ammo gen from Lost Jars, that's enough. You combine that with Jacques and the Dancer, you essentially have an infinite magazine with this weapon, which is very, very awesome. Part of the reason why we are on Rafa. And especially on these condensed groups, bro, we're just out here vibing. Now, last week, I was talking... No, they did not. Oh. Wait, can I grapple back up? Hold on, boy. Surely I can get to here? Yeah? Yeah? Hold on, this entire sequence of events goes in the video. We are so back. We are so back. Anyways, last week I was talking not necessarily some trash, but I thought for sure my team was going to beat the Panthers at home. Now this week, the Packers play the Eagles on Monday Night Football at home. Needless to say, I'm not the most confident after the experience I witnessed last week. That being said, Packers move to 6-2-1 tomorrow night, boys. Let's go back. Oh, baby, you already know. That team can rip my heart out 1,000 more times, and I'll still show up for every game. I'm way too in deep now, boys. Trust me. I've seen... I'm way too in... Look, bro, I'm talking about football because we're using a weapon. It's called the Linebacker. You know what its red text is? I don't really talk about the red text that often, but for this weapon, Put me in, coach, put me in! Every kid that's ever played football in their life has said that line, myself included. This weapon is so fun, dude. It really is. It's just a beast. It's just out here vibing. It's like me. And I'll be honest, bro, on this setup, I honestly forget that this weapon is technically a shotgun. Why are shotguns in this game so good, bro? Hellwalker, Hot Slugger, the Bod, the Linebacker, the Rainbow Vomit, like, dude. Not to mention any shrapnel spread launchers, underbarrels that drop on shotguns. You know, this one, hello. You know, it just occurred to me that I have not done a full spread launcher video yet. I need to do that. This Linebacker is so good. Look at it. Also, as far as I'm aware, this thing is kind of fixed in terms of like part RNG. I don't think it can roll with like a Jacob's part or I'm pretty sure it's kind of static in terms of what it can drop in. Kind of like a Hot Slugger, for example, or a Hellwalker. Shotguns are shotguns, man. It's actually just nuts. Like whenever we get a slaughter shaft or a takedown, there's a high mob section, like just intense mobbing section, bro, I'm using this thing. And shoot, by then I might even find a better setup for it. If you guys have used this weapon, you guys gotta let me know the setup that you guys have been using for it. Obviously, I'm a Rafa main. So my instinct a lot of times is always try a weapon out on Rafa. You can kind of generally tell where a weapon's going to be its best at. Rafa's just kind of good with just about any setup, honestly, which is another reason why I like this character. It just works with just about anything. Then you have Green Tree Harlow, and Harlow in general. Definitely my main two characters. This gun right here, it reminds me so much of Moe's. Like, this is a gun that Moe's would love. Yo, can I get, you know what I'm saying? I love playing Moe's in Borderlands 3. It fit my playstyle exactly. Infinite grenades and big booms. Or just raw rocket builds. It's a fun Vault Hunter. Oh, I wasn't done. Nah, bro, you know I had to get my get back with these guys. No way, Jose. I love it. Dude, this is a weapon that just fits my playstyle. Exactly why I said it would be good on Moe's. Hello? Firing the Skag Den on this bad boy? This weapon is... I'm just literally just running around just boop, 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 boop. It's not as precision or like based as something with a Hot Slugger because you know you're just one shot and everything. This thing you're just like spreading the field with just explosions. You know, a very Torgue play style. He'd be proud. Honestly, Torgue definitely strikes me as the man to play as a linebacker if you played football. We did a good job with this weapon for sure, for sure. It's really consistent. It does exactly what you would expect it to do. And if you're someone who is farming Vile bounties, whether you need to farm Uridium for big encores, oh, speaking of which, it's very, very strong against Vile enemies. Just for that reason, all the crystals, they all all kind of just get rinsed by the explosions. It's very easy. You don't have to worry about like hitting them or some stuff, because like some weapons are very, very strong, but against like vile enemies specifically, they can definitely struggle. Let me just get out of the way of those explosions. And this is a weapon similar to something like the Wombo combo, where if you're able to get one at like a low level from one of those vile bounties when leveling up a new character or your first character, it's very much so gonna help you, and you can feel it even as you level up. Like a level 31 of these bad boys, it'll carry you to 50 just on the raw vile bounty farming. I mean, against the boss that's on the ground like this, where you can get the explosions to hit multiple times, it's not the worst thing. It actually can do the job pretty dang well, low-key. Yeah, against any flying enemy though, is he just immune? It's very not good. And against any flying enemy, it's definitely not the move. Now, this is definitely a weapon with a setup like this is where it's not like the most ideal. Like obviously I'm a stand for Deadeye, but in some instances, like yeah, the airstrike firmware could be pretty nice for the splash radius and the splash damage as well. My firmware is just kind of like wonky. I guess I could have put on this bad boy. You know what? Hold on, boys. Okay, so I decided to hop back over here to another vault with the airstrike firmware up. I do like having this just for, this is our survivability, because in our red tree, we do not expect into hostile acquisition at all. So it's kind of useful to have. But now we have more splash radius and just more splash damage. So it's just going to be even stronger. And we're going to absolutely take advantage of it being absolutely stronger, and just have a nice little run back through of some enemies with it having the firmware. More splash radius, more splash damage. Yeah, we're going to run right through our entire explosions because we're silly. And we're also going to have some fun causing more carnage and destruction with our booms. For our linebacker, I am a stan of the firmware. I am a stan of the Deadeye firmware, but for a weapon like this, that splash radius and extra splash damage for free is going to be so nice. And we're going to happily apply that to our linebacker here, and we're gonna let this bad boy do what it does best. And I'm gonna try my best to not get in its way. I've gotten in its way quite a few times in this video already, and you know, we're gonna just avoid that happening. All right, it's just not gonna have to be a problem or an issue. Now, as someone who is a fan of both Vlanoff weapons, Jacob's weapons, Daedalus weapons are starting to grow on me, I'll be honest. Hyperion in this game, they missed. Oops. Atlas, expect nothing from them, can't be disappointed. And we all know how awesome torgue weapons can be. Dude, if we ever get a takedown, I'm telling y'all, linebacker will be a pretty juicy thing to bring. I literally could already envision this thing on the bridge of the Malawan takedown right before you go fight Wotan Schmokton. This thing would be ripping, although I would definitely be going down to those mayhem barrels. Oh yeah, you saw those vile crystals? Yeah, they instantly got exploded, by the way. I'm telling y'all, dude, if you can get this on a new character early on, or you just have one of these at like a lower level, don't get rid of it. It'll be really useful for leveling up any future characters you may use with the vile bounty method. There's this thing makes easy work of vile bounty enemies, because explosions are those enemies' worst nightmare. So yes, we did pivot to this setup as well right beforehand, but the skill tree stayed the exact same. Here is our red tree at the moment. We have a little bit in here too from our class mod. Dancer goes hard. Always got to get Soldado from the Dancer. That really just juices everything up, especially with Jacques and El Soldado. This is going to get juiced insanely because it's an overdrive bonus. All these overdrive bonuses you really just want to spec into. Once again, lost jars for our ammo regen. As you can see, we really weren't having to reload hardly at all, having just a fat juicer mag, a little bit of fire rate, but on this just to help give them those explosions a chance to crit, because it's an overdrive skill. That 6% crit chance is a lot higher whenever we have our action skill up, which I'll be honest, sometimes isn't the highest on a weapon like this to proc Jirga, but a way that circumvent that obviously is just using a triple bypass with caffeine. I just don't have a triple bypass with the airstrike firmware. That's why I just threw on this purple one here. It's still pretty good. Amp and splash damage wasn't too shabby to use. Overall, this weapon is awesome. Just be careful of its explosions, man. For real. You guys know that we always got to give a shout out to our members of the channel. If you ever want to get your name mentioned in videos, all you got to do, become a tier 1 member of the channel. Shout outs to the homie KJ42, our tier 3 member, man. Much love, much love. Hope all is well with you, homie. And Pikachu, our longest tenure member, coming up on that juicer 8 months. Much love, much love. And of course, hope you guys are being safe and living life as well. Thank you so much for watching the video. Y'all be safe, take it easy. See you around. Adios.